I'm standing at the end of the canal bridge in Victoria Road in Bridgwater, looking down at the sign about the removal of the wooden props for the Albert Street cutting. These props were installed in the 1970s, and the idea then was that they would stabilise the very high walls of the cutting, but they've now decided that they actually don't provide any more structural support, and they've become quite rotten, and they're afraid that they might actually fall and cause somebody injury. So what they're planning to do is remove these props, and some of them, as we'll see in a moment, are beautifully engraved with poetry and other verses. They're going to use these to make flower beds and maybe some seating along this section of the canal, and they're also going to drill some holes into the wall to allow the water to drain out. The path beyond this point is actually technically closed and has been for a number of years. You can still walk along there and under the bridge, which is bridge number 4 on the canal, but beyond that it's actually completely blocked and has been for a while. I'm hoping that today, in a moment, we'll find some evidence that the workmen have actually started work. The Canals and Rivers Trust had assured us that this work was going to be started originally last Monday, but now it's been put forward to today, which is Wednesday. So let's hope that in a moment we'll see some work being done. Having walked up, I suppose about a quarter of a mile or so, we're beginning to enter the start of the cutting, and you can see on the right there the high brick retaining walls, and they lead through in a moment to a tunnel, the last bridge, bridge 4, and then we come up to the reinforced part of the cutting, which has been closed for so long. And here now we can see the final bridge, and we can see just through the tunnel there, we can see some of the beams, which are the ones that are causing the problem, and has resulted in the bridge being closed, or the cutting being closed for so long. And now at the entrance to the bridge, looking through here into the dark, and you can just see at the far end of this picture on the right there's a block, a barrier which has been put up by the CRT to prevent people from coming through into the dangerous part of the cutting. So far no sign of any work going on. So here at the barrier, definitely no way of getting through here unless I get my feet wet, and I can see some of the supports there which are going to be taken down over the next few days, we hope, but absolutely no sign of any workmen in situ. So that's what's got to be done. All of those support beams are going to be removed, and they're going to use them elsewhere along the canal to so that the carving on them can be maintained for the future, and they're going to install some monitoring equipment, so they've said, along the walls on both sides here, to make absolutely certain that they're aware of any movement which takes place. But this is as far as I can get this afternoon on this stretch, so I'm going to plan to walk round back to the car and drive round to the far end of this blockage and see if we can see anything happening there. Very disappointing so far that they don't appear to have come to start the work. Having walked round some while, I'm now on a bridge near the YMCA, and I'm overlooking the beams from the far end. Very difficult to see very much, but you can see where they come across the water, and the tunnel at the far end of the shot is actually where I was half an hour or so ago. I'm just looking down on it and seeing what's happening. Absolutely no sign of any work. I think I'm a bit too far away to make out any of the carving there on the beams, which is a great shame. But I'll try and walk down and get a bit closer. Well, thanks to a tip-off from a passerby, I've come down right down on the towpath where the area is actually blocked off. Maybe I shouldn't be here, but there was no real obstruction. And looking here, one can see the beams going right through this section of the cutting. And it's just possible to make out some of the carving, the verses on the beams. The one in front of us there is crack of the hammer. The next one is difficult to make out, but I think it's iron on stone, and beyond that, red quantock. Really, these beams have degenerated terribly since I was last down here and looking at them closely, and I'm not surprised that the authorities have decided that they need to be removed. Looking at closely there, whether they're tied into the stone, and you can see how bad it really is. The motto on this next one is "We came and went." And so we did. Further on the beams here, the first one in front of me is "Our Legacy." Beyond that, a boat, and I can't make out the one in the distance at all. Let's go a bit closer. And that last one, very appropriately, as we go on through the tunnel there, "Through the hill." And although this area has been closed off technically for several years, still a graffiti artists have got down there. And so, looking back the way I've just walked, you can see all the beams, you can see how they're sloping, how they're rotted, and the fixings, I'm standing right underneath one at the moment, the fixings of them to the walls on either side look very, very insecure. And so here we are right at the far end where I came in. Copper more beams, I can see one is navigators. So really there is only one question today, and that is, where are the workers, the teams from the Canal and Rivers Trust, who we were assured we're going to come and start work on this today after very, very many delays. So I think later this afternoon, an email to the CRT asking them for an update, see where we go from there. Nigel Parkin at the Albert Street cutting on the Bridgwater-Taunton Canal for Artavia Productions.